I changed it.
You give us that.
Anyway, well,
Maybe we'll go back.
maybe he will just try to
Keep texting.
make up. all this valuable time here.
I'm standing back there in the hallway, my phone said, I'm going to call you, we got this bid, and then I heard he was calling, phone didn't ring, couldn't get a signal. I was watching the end credits, and I just ever seen the movie was listed at the end of the movie.
It was a long lot of credits.
We were so secret about it too, about getting Sam in, and the next day, Andy Cool News had it up.
Is that right?
We came in on like a weekend. He came in a limo. There was a small crew. I don't know how it got out. But, and then when we did press screenings, we didn't put that on. And they were so frustrated, like, I know it's true. And, you know, there's something, they're tricking you. And we were, they were right.
How are you, Art?
Oh great, this is fun.
Are you, you're back on the set tomorrow, right? So thanks for something like that, or?
Yeah, go back to New Mexico for Avengers.
We all just watched Iron Man, and so all just watched Iron Man, and you know what I was asking John about is what it meant to him, you know, both in career and emotionally, and as an accomplishment. And for you, when you look at this movie, it must have been a really significant spark of going for you.
Yeah, that was well, that's something that never happened to me. I think both last
Yeah.
And personally too, because I mean, you know, John and I went on this kind of journey together. It was all about trying to take something and kind of maybe reinvent the genre a little bit, and it was just incredibly exciting year. You know, you have nothing to lose. You don't really, I don't know, you sometimes take risks. You want to get like practice in my tank anyway, might as well really make it tricky.
And the whole studio is like, there's a lot of pressure in a weird way, because if it didn't work, the whole studio was going to just go away. You know?
It's like a lemonade
That wasn't our pressure.
It really wasn't. We really had a certain amount of poise, and they didn't really.
I want to move my chair closer to you.
We ran into each other at Joel's Memorial Day barbecue, and I told him I'd be here, and he said, "Really? Can I come?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can come. Come on stage." So, yeah, it's 4 years, man. It was like.
Why are you leaning away from me now?
Sorry. Human centipede. 4 years of just.
Now he's leaning forward, and he might puke. You don't want to stop judging. You just talk. We love you.
Working, and one just rolled right into the next one. There was really no downtime at all. And then we had the I Am Iron Man ending, which seemed like such a great idea, and was. And then we had to make a whole second movie that took that into account. That was a whole
Your problem.
Well, that probably led to a fascinating thing. I mean, you know, the Iron Man 2 and everything is about Tony Stark now is a metaphor for celebrity and a sort of backdrop of gossip and you know, one of his biggest enemies is his own reputation and the way his persona is carried forward, you know, and stuff. Can you guys talk a little bit about that? Or maybe not.
First of all, excellent question.
I think part of it was, I thought, you know, what would be the cool choice to jump off with was the idea that the government was trying to get it. Stark's always been a Howard Hughes type figure, and where his father was, depending on which books you read. And the idea that they're trying to get the weapon away from him, like the old, if you look at the old Howard Hughes trials, and that he had the public on his side, and that it was almost like a Caesar-like rise, where an individual was more powerful than the government because he, holding back, okay, there we go. Because the court of public opinion was on his side, so the government couldn't go against him. Almost like a rollerball, where if somebody's too popular, they're very threatening to the government. And then, of course, when he slips up and somebody actually makes him look vulnerable, that's when the whole thing starts to come crashing down. And that was one of the initial conceits.
Yeah, people pounce.
I think we also wanted to play with the idea that he's someone who does have an awakening of sorts. So when he comes back, he doesn't really want to play that game. I mean, one of the choices he made is that press conference. I was like, this feels like one of those press conferences in the movie. You guys are doing a much better job of taking the pictures at the right time. Downey, what happened there? So I come in and they just had a cheeseburger. It's kind of like, can we just sit down? He's not comfortable with that old persona. And then moving forward, the second element, I think John's instinct was right on, which is, but it doesn't mean that he's retired his jersey. He can still play those games. He'd rather not. He just has his convictions. And I think that's the main thing about him, is he has one set of convictions until the end of the first act of the first Iron Man, and then you get to actually see someone grow more like a human being after their origins.
And putting the movies together, there is all that crackle. I mean, it feels like a lot of the movie has a lot of the energy of captured moments that you guys found on the set, and things like that. But there's a lot of challenge that goes with that. I mean, there's the chaos makes it beautiful, but chaos also is chaos.
I got one for you. He said, I see Tony in the Iron Man suit inside the circle of Randy's donuts.
Yes.
Come over. I was like, that's great. That's great. And then I had to climb up there with this suit, which is so not easy to move around in and be pivoted in it. And I'm not afraid or not afraid of heights. It was just one shot. Just how brave and how full of courage I am.
That was another thing. Is like we had a lot of, whereas in the first one it was pretty much open, no tracks in the snow. By the second one, now all of a sudden there were a lot of different agendas for what we had to accomplish. And the introduction of S.H.I.E.L.D. and sort of reinforced Nick Fury, all of that became, for me, it got more into comic book territory. So anything we could do to ground in reality and something that's relatable. And so initially that scene was to take place, I think, in like S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters with stainless steel, with X-Men style. And what we gravitated to is, no, have it be like a guy who fell off the wagon and a sponsor was meeting with him. And it was like the morning after. And Nick Fury is like, so how's this whole working on your own thing working out for you? And, he just looks like hell. And he hits rock bottom and then reveal that, Black Widow, so to put them in those crazy costumes in that very real environment felt like it was a way to somehow anchor it down. But as more and more elements become superhuman and superheroish, it becomes hard to find those little those pick points to ground it in something that you could relate to, at least for me as a storyteller.
Yeah. And there's some filmmakers and actors who are very much into comics. I mean, they grew up being really beholden to it. I know that you were more like a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I mean, you got your storytelling. Excited nice,
yes. Yeah.
I was reading the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
So I was into Star Wars. I didn't guess that was a big one for me, and all the Spielberg stuff, the Harrison Ford was making it really fun to work with them. All those movies, but. Yeah, I didn't know, to me, especially as we went back and looked at the comics, like, hey, there's thousands of stories in there, just pick one. And you start reading through it. We kind of like the demon in the bottle thing, but there was a sensitivity to having him being too involved with the alcohol.
We should have done further.
There was a lot of, there was a lot of pressure, like, we don't want to see Tony drinking in the movie, we were told. So it was his illness that made him act kind of that way. But he's still kind of drinking in the movie, so hopefully if you're a little kid, you think, oh, he's sick, and if you're older, you're like, oh, he's hammered.
We should have got further.
What about, for you, Robert, I mean, watching Johnny Depp, a guy that, much like you, has a great, tremendous acting talent and background. So doing these popcorn films now, he's really inhabiting this character, Jack Sparrow, and he's done it for a bunch of movies. It looks like you're going to have this as a part of your career. Of course, you're doing other things, Sherlock Holmes and things like that as well. Yeah. For you, what's the...
Hold on a second. I brought the missus with me, so I just do want to say, while she's sitting up there somewhere, that she's a fabulous producing Sherlock.
And I am too.
Absolutely.
I am too as well.
For you, what's the, since you're going to have Tony Stark with you, what is your sort of philosophy about that, like the upside and downside? I mean, what's the maintenance required for you to have a role that stays with you persistently?
Well, first of all, I can forget things really easily. Like I remember, the first Iron Man, I remember I just had two notes. One was just look a little taller and in better shape and be just a little bit cooler than you actually are. Talk just a little lower sometimes, but like don't change much or it'll look like you're putting on a persona, but it definitely is a persona, but it's one that I feel so privileged to be able to even be associated with. And it is tricky, because it's really odd doing Avengers now, without John. It's just odd the way that life happens, and these things wind up becoming, they wind up kind of taking on a trajectory and an inertia of their own, but you're still part of it, and you remember where it all started. It's kind of like, I don't know, I think it's kind of like graduating high school in a way, in a kind of weird way.
Yeah. And for you, John, I mean, obviously you got Cowboys and Aliens this summer.
Yeah.
It was so great coming out, seeing you on the set and seeing you with Harrison and just knowing you and then you just giving direction to a guy that meant so much to you and working side by side with Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg. That's going to be extraordinary.